know this thing got some weird looks last week too. Sorry, when I talk, I like to walk, and I have a habit of talking with my hands, so holding a mic doesn't work. So, there we go. This morning, I promised you a few weeks ago that I would talk about what we learned when we took the high schoolers to KCU for Summer in the Sun. It was a fantastic week. If you weren't here the Sunday when we came back, I showed a 30-second video, and I don't have it this morning, but it was a video of 5 baptisms in a row, and that was Monday night. We kept going from there, so I promised that we would talk about what it was that we learned, what we experienced. And I thought I'd start off, we talked about how the kids picked up some of the Kentucky culture. And some of you might have been wondering, is it really that different? Yes. Yes, it is. Some of it is the accent. That first night when the waitress came back asking who had the ice water, nobody raised their hand because they didn't know what she just asked. It was ice water. And to give you an idea, I thought I'd start with one of the stories that one of our speakers for the week was telling. His name was Scott Pugh. He was telling us that his first 7 years in youth ministry were in Lewis County, Kentucky. And the minute he said Lewis County, Kentucky, this boy in the back goes, "Hey, that's right up the holler from where I live." Sure enough, that boy is from Pike County, which is where me and Nicole spent 2 years away from you. So we know it all too well. We understand exactly what he meant. Let's talk about his senior high ministry had 100 boys in it. I can't imagine that. But 100 boys. And this area of Kentucky is eat, sleep, breathe hunting. I mean, worse than we are. Some of the worst around here, that's just average there. And so these boys kept being like, "Scott, we gotta go hunt, we gotta go hunt, we gotta go hunt." And you just keep telling them, "I don't even know how to gun. This just isn't my thing." So he gets an idea. Let's go paintballing. And they actually didn't know what paintballing was. So he explained it to them. Well, you get this gun, and instead of bullets, we give you little pellets that are paint, and you get to shoot at me. They're in. So that morning, Scott shows up in what most normal people show up for paintball in. Jeans and a t-shirt, pair of tennis shoes. That's just what you do. And then his 100 boys show up. Ready for war. Camo boots, camo pants, camo long sleeve tops, even the face mask. If they didn't have a face mask, they had the black war paint on. They were ready. He thought, all right, whatever, let's go. So he drives them out to the paintball range. Everybody gets out there in the woods. And it's quiet. Not a shot has been fired. And he hears something coming. Lo and behold, a deer walks out. Hey, you see where it's going? He just starts praying, "God, please do not let these 100 professional hunters see the deer." Of course, that got answered with a no, because the next thing he hears is this one boy, "Deer!" And then 100 paintball guns unloading at once as he watches this rainbow deer run into the woods. So when we start making all these jokes about Kentucky culture, yeah, that's why. We get it. So during the week, we had a lot of fun. We ended up experiencing some of these stories for ourselves. We have a few fun ones to tell. But we learned a lot of good things too. There was a lot of self-examination time to think about what a church should look like, and compare it with, First Christian, with them themselves, with our youth group as a whole. Are we doing what we should be doing? There were some tough questions asked. Ones like this: if we were to take First Christian Church, the entire congregation, pick it up, move it to another town, what does Covington look like? What does Covington look like if we're all not here? Do they lose one out of the 50-some churches to go to on Sunday morning? Do they lose a Bible school once a year? Do they start saying, where did all our help go? Are they hurting without us or not? And now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that as an accusation or to make us feel good about what we did. I just think it was a good question that we should all wrestle with at some point. That if we disappeared, what does Covington look like? We kept coming back to this phrase that following Jesus is more than. And that was in your bulletin, but I left it blank on purpose on the screen for you to think about what that blank should be filled in for you. We kept talking about how following Jesus is more than showing up on Christmas and Easter. It's more than perfect attendance on a Sunday morning. Following Jesus is more than singing a few hymns. It's more than some crackers and juice. It's so many more things. It's a very active thing. Our theme for the week was do. We all got these little bracelets, if you've been seeing them, and they say, what are you going to do? What do we do with this thing that we're now a part of? Johnny hit the nail on the head last week during his communion meditation when he was talking about how this is a building. We are the church. We don't go to church, we are the church. And if we're doing this church thing right, then we're becoming more Christ-like. One of our speakers was even saying, if you are in church every Sunday and you're not becoming more like Jesus, something's wrong. And so that's why we kept coming back to this. Following Jesus is more than. What does it take? Following Jesus, it changes everything. We don't always like that it changes everything, but it should be changing everything. So what do we do with that? The kids missed out on this one encounter. I didn't even tell you all this story yet. But one of the nights, we're in there, we're getting ready for worship, we're setting up on the bleachers, the DJ's getting everybody pumped, everybody's jumping and singing along. I'm noticing the youth group in front of us. There was this conversation going on. There was this girl, obviously upperclassman, real pretty girl. She starts talking to a boy who is not an upperclassman and not the coolest kid in the youth group. Imagine what the look on his face was at that moment. It was priceless. I don't know what she asked him to do, but he bolted off to do it. He was just happy that she had noticed him. And that's how excited we should be about Jesus. You know, we're told Jesus knows our name, he knows how many hairs are on our head, he knows all about us, and he died for us. Are we that excited that he notices us? That whatever he says, we bolt off to do it? Like I said, church is an active thing. It's not a spectator sport. It's not something we come, we sit, sing a couple of hymns, listen to a sermon, and then go live the other 6 days and then do it again. It's not something that we can just be here for. We have to be a part of it. And a lot of people, when I start talking about this, especially when I start asking for volunteers for the youth, you can't mean me. I'm fill in the blank here. Can't mean me. I'm too young, too old, too skinny, too fat, too this, too crazy, too whatever your excuse is. But I don't think that God lets those excuses fly. We never see that in the Bible. Because God doesn't, God qualifies the called. He doesn't call the qualified. I believe that wholeheartedly for a long time, and we'll always keep coming back to it. He qualifies the called. He does not call the qualified. If he calls you for something, he's going to make it happen. He doesn't expect you to be perfect before he calls you. How many of you have seen the Disney movie Up? The guy that ties the balloons to his house? Good, at least a few more. First service is like 2. If you've seen it, you know that the first 8 minutes of that movie is one of the best love stories in all of movies. And if you haven't seen it, Brenda, here's where these pictures are going to come in. I want to walk you through the basic idea of the first 8 minutes. Follow along on this with me. At the beginning of the movie, there we go. We meet this little boy, Carl. Carl wanders into this abandoned house and runs into this little girl, Ellie. Redhead girl, kind of crazy, he's a little scared of her. But he falls in love with her. And so the next thing we see for the next few minutes is their whole life play out. No words, just the music going in the background. So the next picture, they've grown up, they get married. Carl's pretty crazy about her. And then we keep going. That house that they had wandered in that was abandoned, they buy it, they fix it up, it's theirs. They keep going. And they start dreaming. They're daydreaming out here looking at the clouds, and they get the idea, we want kids. And the next one's not on the screen because I couldn't find the picture, but it's them at the doctor being told, not going to happen. There's no way. But then we follow them through the life even more, and they just keep growing older, still just as much in love as the day they met. Go on, Brenda. And they end up being pretty old. All right. Now, Carl had been promising Ellie all those years, I'm going to take you to South America one day. And this got in the way, that got in the way. It never happened. So he finally realizes we're getting old, and he buys the tickets, and he wants to take her out for a picnic to surprise her. But on the way up the hill, she kind of falls over. So the next thing we see is them in the hospital, him beside her bed. And the next thing we see is the empty hospital bed. So about 8 minutes in, we're left with this picture of Carl, kind of curmudgeon, hunched over, cane with the tennis balls. He said one of the best love stories in all the movies, and I bawl like a baby every time. Back up with me for a minute. Let's go back to that hospital bed and pretend for a second. Pretend that this old couple standing there in the bed, that Ellie doesn't pass away. Pretend for a minute that instead, doctors say, hey, guess what, you're pregnant. And then all of a sudden you got the story of Abraham and Sarah. Okay? A lot of times with Old Testament stuff, it's easy to look past the insane ages of some of these people. But the simple fact is, they were probably older than that. Right? Carl's not just getting his first cane. Abraham was probably on like the 5th one and had used enough tennis balls to supply Wimbledon. He's up there. He was 100. Sarah was 90. And God's trying to tell him, look at the stars, I'm going to make that many descendants for you. Abraham's got his excuses. He says, I'm too old. Sarah's too old. Everybody thinks we're failures because we never had kids. I said, exactly. That's why I'm going to make a whole nation out of you. He's not the only one in the Old Testament that we see this with. There's another guy that God called him for a mission. The guy said, but I grew up a spoiled rich kid. Then I killed somebody, ran away, spent the last 40 years bumming it, living with my father-in-law, which is never cool. Finally got to hear person. I had to. He says, on top of all that, God, I stutter. God says, exactly, that's why you're perfect, Moses, to lead my people out of Egypt. And there's this other guy. God says, I got a mission for you. And he's saying, but I don't even like your people. I've been hunting them down. I've been approving of the killing. I held the coats while they threw rocks at the first elder. Exactly, Paul. That's why you get to write half the New Testament. Another guy. There's a whole list of them. One more. He's like, I'm just an ugly, smelly fisherman. I got kind of a violent temper, if you haven't noticed. And by the way, that one night, I pretended like I didn't know you 3 times. Exactly, Paul. But Peter. Too many P's there. Exactly, Peter. That's why I'm going to call you Rock. And on that rock, I built my church. See, these people had their full list of labels saying, no, this means I can't do it. God never let that get in the way. He let those things prepare them, not disqualify them. So what do we do with that? We should be a family on mission. We like to call Mike and Marcy missionaries because they are headed out on mission. They've got their goal. But in a way, all of us are too. We should look at Covington as our mission field. We've got a goal in mind, and we need to be that family on mission, setting out to transform them, so that if we disappeared as a congregation in Covington, it'd be broken. It'd be hurt. And some people might be wondering, well, what is this? Why are we talking about all this with the youth? Why does that matter for the youth? Isn't that something that we as adults should handle? But our main speaker, Ben, did some research into this. He found that every great revival in American history started with 2 things: youth and prayer. Young people got together, said, it's not right, it's broken, we need to fix it. They started praying, and things started happening. It's our youth that'll change things. Not even my generation anymore. I'm getting old, apparently. But it's them. They're the ones that can change it. And when you see 600 of them shouting amen at the top of their lungs, you understand why we're giving them power to fix things. Pretty incredible. So you might be wondering, what is it that I'm asking of you? Because I'm not asking you to be a biblical scholar or work with these kids. I'm not asking you to be a perfect person or even a teacher or any of this. I'm just asking people to be willing. If God calls you to do something with them, do it. I fully believe that when you step out, God shows up. And people say, well, I don't know what to say. There's been plenty of times situations come up, I'm like, I have no clue what to say. But I start trusting that one of the jobs of the Holy Spirit is to put those words in my mouth and teach me things. So I'll sit down with a kid that I don't even know where to start. You know what happens? All right, God, it's up to you. And words start coming. I start quoting scriptures. I don't know when I learned them. Apparently, 3 seconds before I said them. I start coming out with all these questions and thoughts that they're not my own. God will show up to help. You know, what I'm asking is for something that goes beyond Sunday morning. You know, and I'm not talking about middle of the week, white shirts, bicycles, and Bible tracts. I'm not talking about picket signs. That's sure not going to do it. That attitude just won't work. I'm talking about acting the way Jesus acted, not just saying the things he said. It's about building relationships, being real with people, loving your neighbors. This led to a great conversation with kids on loving your neighbors. They got it better than I did a lot of times, I think. Because too often, when we say that phrase, love your neighbors, the mental picture is, okay, go love my white, middle-class, suburban, law-abiding neighbor. But it means so much more than that. Following Jesus means no matter who your neighbor is, you love them. Okay? White, black, Asian, Mexican, whatever. Rich, poor, middle class, straight or less than. And I know that one's going to make somebody squirm. I'm not talking about approval. I'm talking about loving your neighbor. There's a difference. I'm talking about whether your neighbor is law-abiding or the drug dealer, you still show them Christ's love, because that's when real change happens. Our main speaker, Ben, told this story that really illustrated this well. He was working in one of the biggest churches in the country. Corner office, nice view, plush suburban home, great schools for his kids. And God said, hey, I want you to move to the rougher side of Louisville, start a church for me. So after a little bit of debate, he did. He went across town, bought a house, realized he was in the 3rd poorest zip code in the country. Really bad schools, like near the bottom of the list for the state. And then he starts looking around, just loving his neighbors. And he sees the guy next door, out working on his yard one day. And this guy is big. And I don't mean obese, I mean ripped. He's this big black man that his first thought is, he can kill me with his pinky if I say the wrong thing. So he's a little scared. One day he's out working on his yard work. So Ben says, you know what, I'm just going to go help him. And he goes over, he's like, hey man, can I help you with your work? Sure. So Ben gets some tools, starts working with him, and they start talking, and the guy's like, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a pastor. I'm moving over here to start a church. Oh, okay. Then asks the guy, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a pimp. Exactly, that's everybody's first thought. Yeah, okay, sure, me too. The guy says, no, really. This house is the brothel. I'm here to protect the girls. So not only did he move to 3rd poorest zip code and put his kids in an awful school, he accidentally bought a house next to a brothel. Yeah, most of us would be dialing 911, then calling the realtor, like, get me somewhere else. That wasn't Ben's approach. He took the love your neighbor thing seriously. He's like, hey, I know a bunch of guys, if you ever need some help around here, just getting the house fixed up, doing some cleaning, yard work, whatever, we can help you. Really? Yeah. When? Next Saturday? Okay. So Ben calls a bunch of church guys and they fix up the brothel. Yeah, I know. But give it a little bit of time. He starts inviting this to neighborhood barbecues, family dinners, all of this. A little bit of time goes by. The guy starts asking questions. A little bit more time goes by. He starts coming to church. A few weeks later, Ben walks off stage after the sermon. The guy grabs his arm and says, I'm ready to give my life to Jesus. Fast forward a little further. It's the night before Easter. Ben's finishing up his sermon, and he gets a text message from his friend of him. I'll paraphrase it for you. It basically said, hey, pastor, can I bring some pimps and girls to church for Easter? Which Ben said, everybody can bring friends. And so Easter Sunday, he said there was a whole section of the church that looked like a rap video. But you fast forward a little further, that brothel shut down. Fast forward a little further, Ben gets a call from the district attorney who says, I don't believe in all the God stuff, but whatever you did, keep going, it's working. See, when we love unconditionally, we love and care simply to love and care, that's when change really happens, no matter who the person is. Our kids want to know that who we are on Sunday morning is who we are the other 6 days of the week. Who we are here is who we are there. They made it clear that's important to them. That's actually important to a lot of people. People who aren't doing that, pretty high up on the list of reasons people don't come to church. They say, I'd love to go to church, but I've met church people. That hurts. Right? So it comes down to serving alongside our youth. It's setting the example for them. Being spiritual parents to them. Because for some of these kids, you'll be the only spiritual parents they ever get. Some of our kids, yeah, they grew up here in the church. Parents might be deacons or something. They've been here. Other kids, they come in looking for a hot meal and a safe place for one evening a week. I'm hoping we offer them more. Like Marcy was saying last week, this looks different for everybody. Some people are called to be this. Some people are called to be this. With youth ministry, it's the same thing. Some are made for direct physical service, going out and doing missions with the kids. Some people, like those of you who help to finance Bible school and camps and make sure that we got to Summer Sun, that's your gift, and I cannot thank you enough for that. For some people, it is teaching. For some people, it's cooking. We had a full kitchen staff for Bible school this week, and that was great because that's their gift. They used it, and the kids were thrilled. And then there's those special people that are made for what I like to call Red Bull Youth Ministry. And anybody that worked Bible school, you know what that is. Just high energy. So we're going to be starting a few things with the kids. I know some of you have already been cornered about this first one and not had a clue what they were wanting of you. So now I get to fill you in. We're going to start a group, and I can't be more proud of them because this was the kids' idea. Calling it the Do Crew. It's a team of kids, once a month, pick a mission, we do it. We go out, we have our service project, and we do it. The kids wanted to do that. Now, how does that relate to you? See, I gave them one qualification for this. Every kid on the Do Crew has to be partnered with an adult from the church. And not, a few of you volunteered, so I pair you up awkwardly with somebody that may or may not like you. Kids have to come and ask you to do this. So what I'm talking about for right now is just start praying and thinking, if the kid comes and asks me, am I ready to commit to doing that? To be that mentor, to serve alongside them for the next little bit, to show them how this thing is done, how we really do this thing called church. The next thing that we're going to do, again, I can't thank you you all enough for the ones that have been serving and helping with all of the things that we've been doing. And I'll tell you, one of the hardest parts for me was asking for money. That stresses me out. I hate doing it. And also stresses me out trying to figure out that much money last minute. So I want to offer a way that can work a little easier for some of you. Hear me out. We're going to call it 10 for 10. And it's a commitment to give $10 a month for 10 months. That way you're not trying to shell over a bunch of money next summer when we're trying to get these kids back there again. It's a way to spread it out. But listen carefully. If you are giving to the offering, that's all you can do, I don't want your money. If you are taking care of the offering, and you're taking care of Mike and Marcy the way we should be, and there's not a penny more, I don't want your money. I want those taken care of first. But if you're the kind of person that's doing those two things, and then you got $10 in your pocket at the end of the month, you want to see it go something good, you're the people who are looking to commit to something like this. And there's kids beyond that, they have really good ideas when we listen. So they're going to kind of elect their own elders of the youth group, so to speak, here soon. They're going to have a student leadership team. And that way they can get together, discuss these things that they want to see happening, come about it from a smart way, and then approach us or the elders or somebody, say, hey, what do you think about this? So that's the other side of it, is while you're praying for them, also be thinking about if they come and have a conversation with me, listen to them. I might learn something. They're full of good stuff. And I want to close with just this one last story. There's another one from Scott Pugh, the guy that told the deer story from earlier. He's not in Kentucky anymore. He moved to the rougher side of Cleveland, to an area where there just weren't evangelical churches. It was like 1 in 10,000 people would attend the evangelical church on a weekly basis. Now that 1 in 10,000, I mean, that basically would mean that in all of Allegheny County, 2 of us would go to church. So he went there. Before he ever opened the church doors, he just started doing things for the community. They did a big Disney day, brought in characters, they did face painting. That kind of led to us face painting on Friday night. So Amanda and Aggie know why you were there forever. Thank you, by the way. Bible school ended at 8:30. Amanda was still face painting adults at 9:30. Anyway, Scott goes in, he's doing all this stuff for the community. And because of it, the town starts to realize it and starts to let him do things. One day they're like, hey, let's just rent an ice cream truck and give out ice cream to the kids, which in Cleveland is illegal. But he called the chief of police. The chief of police said, let me get back to you. They said, go, we got it covered, you're good. So he's not supposed to be able to do it, but he does. He fills up this ice cream van, starts going around. He'd see kids, he'd be like, hey, you want some ice cream? And they're like, how much? It's free. You'd think the kids would run straight to the truck. They ran inside, and then the whole family poured out. So these parents started saying, why are you doing this? He's like, well, I'm Scott, I'm from Vertical Church. We just want to love and care for the people of the community. And one of the responses was, the churches don't do that. That hurts me to hear that. To think that there are people out there who don't see churches as loving and caring for the community. So it's just something to think about as we move forward. I ask you to pray for these kids. Be that example. Be the spiritual parent. Think about how we can serve to make sure that they do start another revival. All right. We are going to stand, and I guess Amanda, not Johnny, I've been trying to give him credit all morning. Amanda will come and lead us in number 450.